Welcome back to the Jon Krawczynski Show. We have some news to share with you today. We'll also spend a lot of time in this show taking Twitter questions, and we also talk about the Minnesota Lynx, who keep winning regardless of the circumstances. A remarkable season for that franchise and a very intriguing season coming up for the Wolves, of course. This is the Jon Krawczynski Show. Also, you can also hear John on the Viking Update Show. Hey, right now we've got 3 Viking shows. We have the best Timberwolves show in town. We have the best hockey show in town with Russo. We have all kinds of stuff going on with chin music with Roy and Lavelle. Check it all out at talknorth.com. When you find a show you like, including this one, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. Summer's packing up and chilly mornings are sneaking in. Don't face them with a cranky furnace, flickering lights, or a water heater that quits mid-shower. With $98 off any furnace, electrical, or plumbing repair, we'll fix the headaches so you can sip cider, rake leaves, or just pretend to rake leaves. Aquarius, local, trusted, and earning the right to be recommended. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com.
Hey, this is Randy Shaver. Along with Kevin Gorg, we host the show Fantasy Huddle on Talk North. Each week, we're going to break down the matchups for the NFL season and try to give you the best chance to win your fantasy football games each and every week. Join us for Fantasy Huddle on Talk North.
And we're presented to you by Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood. Let us get to the news of the week. Tim, what's going on with Tim Connelly's contract situation?
Yeah, so we talked pretty much all summer, Jim, of just kind of about Tim Connelly's contract situation. Everyone knows that in the last summer, the summer of 2024, Tim Connelly had an opt-out in his contract, and he put that into the contract that he originally signed just as a way to have some sort of security and flexibility, to react to whatever happened with the ownership situation. If he didn't like how that turned out, he could opt out and become a free agent. Well, then at the end of last summer, he moved that opt-out back a year because there was still arbitration playing out. It was still unclear of exactly how this whole situation was going to end up. And so he wanted to, again, retain that flexibility. And so he went into this summer with the potential to become a free agent. And after 2 straight Western Conference Finals runs, you're thinking, he's one of the most sought after. He would be one of the most sought after free agents on the market from a front office perspective if he chose to exercise that option and do it. He could have had a job, immediately if he wanted it. But really, what we found out essentially last week was that kind of quietly earlier on in the summer, Tim Connelly had kind of talked with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie and went over some things and eventually just opted in to the final 2 years of his original 5-year deal. So there has not been an extension of his contract yet, but there is clarity on exactly how this is going to work going forward. And that is that he is going to fulfill the last 2 years of the original 5-year deal that he signed when he came over from Denver. This also, Jim, gives sort of both sides, Lauren Rodriguez and Tim Connelly, just a little extra breathing room to kind of continue to negotiate a longer term extension. Mark and Alex have been very kind of adamant about the importance of continuity in their regime, and they just signed the CEO to a 10-year contract, Matthew Caldwell. Chris Finch is under contract for 3 more years. And so I do think that eventually, as the year plays out, you'll probably see some sort of discussions take place about a longer term extension. But for now, Connelly is under contract for this upcoming season and next season, so not going anywhere, and just kind of gives fans the peace of mind that, hey, this is at least there's nothing pressing on the contract front for him right now, and he's locked in.
There were people on the business side who were obviously Glenn Taylor supporters, and they even if they didn't broadcast it publicly, everybody kind of knew. I always felt like every time I walked by A-Rod and Laurie after a game, Connelly was sitting there talking to him. I think it feels like he played this intelligently. He certainly never did anything to indicate that he didn't want Glenn Taylor to keep the team, but he seemed to be in constant communication with Alex Rodriguez and Laurie. They seem to have a pretty good relationship.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those two were the ones who initiated the recruitment of Tim Connelly, who kind of really coaxed him into leaving a very, very good situation in Denver, one that eventually they won the championship the year that he left. And so he had constructed a roster that was really ready and he loved it. And Denver was very close with Josh Kroenke. And so it was Laurie and Rodriguez who kind of really were the heavy recruiters and active in luring him away. Certainly Glenn Taylor had to sign off on it and was involved at the end of it. But it was a difficult position for Connelly to be in during that power struggle because he didn't know how it was going to shake out and if Glenn Taylor was going to win or if Mark Laurie and Alex Rodriguez was going to win. And so he was one of many people in the organization who really kind of needed to straddle a fence and be amenable to both sides and just kind of be respectful of that. So yeah, he had conversations with Glenn a lot through all of the last couple of years. And, in terms of discussing how the team was going to be built, the direction, all of those things. And he was also, in close contact with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie because they were the ones who essentially got him here. And I think that, once there was clarity that was provided about who was going to own the team, it certainly helped Tim to at least now understand that, okay, now I have one boss instead of two bosses. Well, he has two bosses, but, one group instead of two groups that he had to appeal to. And so that should make kind of his job easier going forward. But yeah, there's always been very close contact with Tim, and then Mark and Alex and Rodriguez and Laurie have both been incredibly complimentary of Tim Connelly throughout this whole process. They have really been excited by, not only being able to say that the Timberwolves, this long struggling franchise, lured a heavyweight executive away, but at the job that Tim Connelly has done. I mean, he's assembled a roster that has been a legit contender in the last 2 years in the West, has been in the playoffs every year that he's been there. He's taken big swings. He's been, he's not been risk averse. He's going out there and really doing everything that he can to try and get this team to where it needs to be. And so now they go forward, together as a team. And I think that there's certainly, plenty of optimism that eventually a long-term deal can get worked out, but they don't need to do that right now because they have that part of it handled and they can just kind of take a breath and let this whole thing play out naturally.
Tell us about the Head Flyer gig you have lined up.
Yeah, pretty cool. Exciting thing coming up at the end of this month, Saturday, September 27th. We will have full details to follow, but we're going to do sort of like an opening of the season celebration at Head Flyer. They've been a long running sponsor with us and partner with us. And we're really excited to kind of get back out there to Head Flyer for a live show. It is like 2 days before training camp opens. And so I think that there will be a lot of excitement around this team to celebrate. And the kind of the headline attraction is there's going to be a live show with myself and Dane Moore, kind of a super show to really talk about the team, really preview the season, answer all your questions about it, really engage with the audience. But as we kind of go forward into September, we will have more announcements about giveaways, about other guests, about, kind of other festivities that are going to be at Head Flyer on Saturday, September 27th, all geared around the Timberwolves season beginning. And so it's going to be even, I think, a little bit bigger than the normal Head Flyer shows that we've had in the past that many of you have gone to and that have all been really fun and really successful. We're going to do it up a little bit bigger just to kind of ring in the new year, and really excited to have Dane Moore kind of side by side with me at that show. And like I said, we'll have more to announce as we go forward, but Saturday, September 27th, mark it on your calendars. A bit of a Wolves Fest at Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast Minneapolis.
Yes, and let's take care of a little business before we get to our next topic. Now let's hear from Lexus of Wayzata and Maplewood.
Yeah, if you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than our good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they've got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
All right, before we get to the Twitter questions, we have a lot of good Twitter questions to get to. And as training camp approaches, let's just hit quickly, or not quickly, we'll see, on the Minnesota Lynx. They just continue to defy expectations. Collier continues to dominate. On Monday night, they won another game. They're kind of in just relaxed mode, and they're still winning. By the way, Paige Bueckers is having a historically good rookie season, and it's going to be really interesting if Dallas is capable of building a good team around her, because she's 5th in the league at scoring. This is a kid who Gino Auriemma, for most of her career at Connecticut, couldn't get her to shoot as much as he wanted her to shoot. And she's not Caitlin Clark. She's not going to hit an off-balance sidestep 3 with somebody in her face. She's not doing the over-the-top, crazy, spectacular things. She's just efficient. She just makes the right play at the right time, shoots when she's open, creates space for herself when she needs to. And she's a technician. But she's having a great season. But, she's having a great season for a franchise that never wins anything. And it reminds you just how hard it is to do what the Lynx are doing.
It's amazing, yeah. And the fun thing about watching Paige kind of assert herself is that she's doing it with, like you said, without any, much talent around her. Certainly, when they played on Monday night, a bunch of players were out injured. And so she kind of had to go it alone there, and it went the way that you would expect it to. But, she's had to be resourceful. She's going at it. And the challenge will be, how do you build around her? I think that the Lynx have done an incredible job, obviously, of building around Nafisa Collier and really kind of constructing a roster that takes advantage of all of her talents on both ends of the court, but that also does enough to then even make players who might not be great players individually of their own right, but become better because of the system they're playing, with the ball movement, with the unselfishness, with the 3-point shooting that they have. It's a hard thing to do, to just really kind of make a system that raises the level of players that you plug into it. And Cheryl Reeve's done that. And so now they are built to win around Nafisa Collier, incredibly well right now. And if Dallas doesn't do it, I'm sure the Lynx would love to take Paige Bueckers off her hands eventually.
Courtney Williams has been, Courtney Williams has been the first point guard that Cheryl Reeve has had since Lindsay Whalen, who can do all things she wants a point guard to do. She's had good players since since Lindsay Whalen, and she spent draft picks on point guards. This is the first one you can tell they're on the same page, and that Williams can be the facilitator, and when she needs to be the scorer when she needs to be. And it's just a different thing when Reeve can have that conversation or have that telepathy with her point guard and get what she needs out of that position when she needs it. And of course, Paige Bueckers in the future, Paige Bueckers with Cheryl Reeve, that would be incredible. I don't know if it's possible for it to happen. There aren't the circumstances around that potential acquisition that there were around Lindsay Whalen, where basically Lindsay Whalen was playing for a very good friend of hers, who was also a friend of Cheryl Reeve's, and they kind of knew they weren't going to contend with her, so they were willing to trade her. I can't see Dallas giving up on Paige Bueckers, but man, if you had Paige Bueckers in Minnesota, that would elevate. You can't say it would elevate the franchise. Well, yeah, I guess it would, but the attention and the impact on attendance could be phenomenal.
For sure, it would be amazing. It'd be box office, no doubt about it. But getting to your Courtney Williams point, which is kind of the present day situation that they're in. When you talk about the symbiosis that those two have, I think it's notable that, Courtney is a player who very much likes to operate in the mid-range and is very effective at it. And you can tell, though, that Cheryl has kind of coaxed her to stretch her game out, to get out to the 3-point line. She's shooting 40% from three this season. And I think, the volume is upticking there. And that is a sign of a coach who has allowed her player to kind of do things that she's most comfortable with, in living that mid-range at those elbow pull-up jumpers and things that Courtney likes so much. But then also, because Courtney's given that freedom, she's also willing to give Cheryl, okay, you're going to let me do this? All right, I'll do what you want as well. And I'll back out behind the 3-point line and I'll knock those down at a high clip as well. And so that, I think, is such a key to this team's ability to play above maybe its collective talent. I know Courtney's great. Nafisa's great. Alana Smith is a great player. They have, Dejanay Carrington, they have real talent, but it's a team that is more than the sum of its parts because of some of those compromises and adaptations that they have done, both on the coaching staff and on the player side of things, to really kind of get the most out of each other.
Yes. And Cheryl said something really interesting about Courtney recently. She was saying that Courtney, they will have little arguments. I don't know if the argument's the right word, but they'll have conflict. They'll have disagreements. But at the end of every conversation, Courtney Williams looks at her and says, and Courtney Williams is kind of a free spirit. She will look at Cheryl and say, yes, ma'am. And I think Cheryl just loves that sign of respect and the understanding that, hey, I'm the leader of the team. And I'm going to do what my coach wants. Even if I disagree with it, I'm eventually going to come around to just doing what my coach wants.
Yeah. And I mean, the bottom line is that they're winning at a high level, both last year and this year. And so I think that both Cheryl and Courtney understand that this relationship that they have built is producing wins at an incredibly high level. And so when you have those stakes, when you have that production and those results from listening to your coach, from doing, what she wants as she wants it done, and it produces wins, there's really no arguments to be had. I think that the conflicts, when the conflicts turn into difficult situations, is when one, either the player or the coach, has their kind of view of how it needs to go, and then the success is not following with it. And that breeds doubt, and that breeds kind of a bitterness sometimes. But when Cheryl has pressed Courtney, it has usually resulted, and Courtney acquiesces and says, okay, I'll give you what you want here, they win. And I do think that sometimes Courtney has pushed back a little bit and said, hey, but I need to get to this spot. And Cheryl has given her a little bit of freedom there. And Courtney takes advantage of that and knocks down those shots and plays efficiently. And so, then it's easier for Cheryl to say, okay, I see you here. And so the winning that is resulting from it, from those conversations, is just imperative toward keeping that trust in the relationship, and that, both sides are aiming at the same thing, even if they're maybe trying to get there in a different way.
Yes. All right. Let's get to Twitter questions next. I do want to tell you about our friends at TSR Injury Law, 612-TSR-TIME, 612-TSR-TIME. I think TSR, a big factor in the reason Naz Reid decided to re-sign with the Minnesota Timberwolves and stay in Minnesota, where he's so popular. And I look forward to more Naz Reid commercials. I look forward to more basketball wizardry from Steve Terry, who just, once you edit out all the missed passes, you can discern that Steve Terry is quite a basketball talent. We like teasing Steve because he's such a good guy. The reality is that if you ever need an injury lawyer, you're going to want somebody you trust, someone who's going to take care of you, and they are going to take care of you. So we hope you don't need them, but if you do need them, just remember 612-TSR-TIME, 612-TSR-TIME. Thanks also to Royal Credit Union.
Choosing the right banking partner for your business is an important decision. Royal Credit Union supports your business needs now and into the future with flexible checking account options and digital tools to help streamline your business operations. Royal also helps take your business further with treasury management services, including ACH, sweeps, and positive pay. Choose Royal Credit Union for business checking. Get started at rcu.org/Royal Choice. Insured by NCUA.
And John, tell us about our friends at Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. You know the deal by now. Go to Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove for all of your wine, beer, spirits needs. But especially if you are looking for craft beer, if you're looking for bourbon, they have the best selection that you're going to find in the area. Anything from top shelf to the more affordable stuff, more accessible stuff, both in the craft beer and in the bourbon, they have you covered. You can get wine there. You can get any kind of drinks that you want, THC, seltzers, and gummies. They have you covered there as well. They have been in this community forever, for decades and decades, and they are still here because they take care of the customer, because they provide great selection at a good price. So go to Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you.
Yes. Thanks very much to all of our sponsors who make all this possible. And we look forward to seeing y'all at Head Flyer Brewing. We'll tell you more about Head Flyer Brewing here in a second. All right, let's get to some Twitter questions. Let's start with, and I'm going to offer a blanket apology if I mispronounce your name. It's not intentional, and hopefully we'll get to know you well enough that I'll get the names right eventually. From Anthony Weigel, I believe, what can the NBA do to make it a more entertaining product? The amount of whistles absolutely kill the flow of the game. It's not that enjoyable. I'm going to go big picture before I turn it over to John. I think every sport, if you really watch all the time, they all have their flaws. The NFL, the NFL, it's amazing. If you actually ever watch a games, that you recorded in the NFL, you'll realize how little action there actually is. I mean, it's 3 to 3.5 hours, and the ball's in play for, I don't know, half an hour of that. I mean, right. It's mostly huddles and commercials. So I don't know. My view, John, is that there's not much can be done because you have to have whistles in the game. You can't have fewer whistles because that would lead to more physical play and a worse product. I think the product's really good, and I'm not sure it can be improved in that way. Yeah,
I mean, I think that I understand Anthony's point for sure, and I do think the most enjoyable games are the ones where the officials maintain control of it, but also let the players play. It's a hard game to officiate because we're just seeing all of that. It's so fast, and there are so many, calls that are missed, and it can get really frustrating as a fan to watch that, and it gets frustrating with the players and coaches as well for the way that kind of the deviation from game to game in how a game is called. But to me, where I really agree with Anthony, even though I disagree with not that enjoyable, I love watching the game. I think it's at a great place. I think there's a lot of talent, and I think the parity, I think all of it makes it wonderful to watch. But the ends of games is, I think, where the league really should look at ways to streamline it with all the timeouts, with some of the intentional fouling that happens, with all the free throw shooting, with the reviews, all those things. I mean, you can talk about the last 2 minutes taking 40 minutes to finish. And that's just that everything grinds to a halt there. And I know that there is some benefit for the league in that because you get more commercials in, and that's when most people are watching. And so you can charge a little bit more money. But I think that somehow, some way, whether it's removing, a timeout from a coach's pocket, whether it's some other things, whether it's streamlining the review process so it's quicker. I think that those are issues that the league really does face, and it is looking at exploring for ways to improve the overall fan experience at a game, because it is too long in those last 5 minutes of games, and it can really drag on. And so some way, somehow they have to look at that and figure it out. They have not done it yet, but I hope that's at the front of their agenda as they look at ways to improve the product from a television, fan experience sort of way. From Jack Arno X on Twitter, and Jay to the Rod basically asked questions about Terrence Shannon Jr. Will he move into a starting role? Are the Wolves going to miss a beat if it's basically Shannon replacing Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Yeah, I mean, he's not going to start this year because I just, he's a young player coming off the bench, and they have people at his position, Ant at the 2, Jaden at the 3, and so he won't do that. But he is going to have a much more elevated role this season when you look at, with Nickeil Alexander-Walker gone, There are going to be 23, 24 minutes available. I think he will get a lot of those minutes, especially if he plays well, just with his aggressiveness, with his ability to get out in transition, with his age. I mean, he's older than Anthony Edwards, and Chris Finch does like kind of players who have experience, who can kind of process things and be ready and digest game plans and do it. And Terrence Shannon Jr. has the maturity to make that happen. And so the reason that the Wolves essentially chose Julius Randle and Naz Reid rather than some other combination of Randle and Alexander Walker or Reid and Alexander Walker is because they believe that Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham, to an extent, are ready to step into those minutes and be developed. And so, yes, I think that there's high optimism for that, Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be a regular part of this rotation. And a lot of people really believe that he's going to have a very good year. It'll be different from Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but I think it can still be as impactful.
Some very good Twitter questions coming up. First, though, John, tell us about True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington is the place to go for your vision correction. We saw, Dejanay Carrington in the Lynx game, a contact popped out of her eye. And I was just like appalled when she picked it up off of the ground. No solution, popped it right back in her eye. Apparently that's been a regular thing for her the last couple of games where contacts have fallen out of her eye. I just say, I would, if I could talk to her right now, I'd say, go to True Vision, Dejanay, and get your vision corrected the way that I did. I had LASIK surgery. I have not had to wear contacts or glasses for over a year. It has been life-changing. It makes it so much easier. I can get into basketball practice with my kids, run around, not worrying about glasses falling off, not worrying about contacts falling out. And so go to the good people at truevision.com, set up a consultation, and they will take you through all the steps to get the right procedure for you and get on with living your life. So hopefully, Dejanay Carrington is listening to this podcast and will go to True Vision. Hopefully all of you who are listening will as well, because it really is a life-changing experience, and I cannot recommend it enough. True Vision in Bloomington, truevision.com.
The Twitter questions we're bringing to you today are sponsored by Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line.
SGLambchops.com is the place to go. JONK20 is the promo code. 20% off anything at Lamb Chops. They have just great casual wear, shorts, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, everything that you can want. Super high quality, affordable stuff that you can wear around the house. You can wear out in the North Loop on a Friday or Saturday night, and you can feel like you can fit right in either way. Jordan, Craig, all the guys at Lamb Chops have made it a community company that is invested here, that shows up at games, that is out and about, just like the kind of exact kind of companies we at Talk North like to be partners with, are the local companies that really do a lot of good work here in the community, and they do great work at Lamb Chops. So go to sglambchops.com, promo code JONK20 for 20% off everything you get at Lamb Chops.
All right, back to the Twitter questions. Thank you all for sending them in. We do appreciate it. From Adam Rowan, Wolves seem to be flying a bit under the radar with their run-it-back strategy, getting bounced again 5 again, and national attention elsewhere. Do you get the sense that the feelings of disrespect are going to be an overt motivational theme this year, us against the world?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, Adam, it's going to be sort of like disrespect in that way of like chip on your shoulder, nobody believes in us sort of thing. But I do think that there is a real motivation from this team that they have made it to the Western Conference Finals 2 straight years, and they've gotten flattened in both of those series. And so I think that they feel like they have not played their best on the biggest stage, and they want to come back and be hungry and show that they're capable of more. And so that is why you've kind of seen a lot of pictures on social media from the Wolves of players being in the practice facility early. And often all summer long. That's why you've seen Anthony Edwards be in Minnesota quite a bit this summer and working out, and doing things and trying to get as many people to Minnesota as possible to be around each other, because there is motivation. They have felt good about making the Western Conference Finals 2 straight years for the first time in franchise history, but they also are dissatisfied with how they have played in those moments. And so I don't think that, when they show up at the end of the month for training camp and for media day, that they're going to be kind of expressing a lot of, hey, we're being dismissed, nobody believes in us, that sort of thing. But I do think it's, hey, we have something to prove. And we know that we have another step to take, and it's a big one. It's probably the hardest one to take. And so I think that's the thing that's really kind of driving this coaching staff and these players more than any sort of public disrespect. It's the, hey, we've got to show up here now when we have this opportunity, because who knows when they'll come again.
Good question from Troy Willis here. What's the low-hanging fruit this team will look to address? A la transition defense, increased three-point long volume in previous years. I'm wondering if it's increased transition offense and, of course, turnovers.
Yeah, I think that number one, first and foremost, it is a good question and a good observation. It is transition offense. I think they have been very good with 3-point shooting from their efficiency. Could they get a few more up? Maybe, but they're generally in the top 5 in attempts and makes and percentage over the last few years. And so I think that's on par with where they want to be. But transition offense is the way for them to boost their offensive rating from around 12, 11, 10 to 5, 4, somewhere in there, to support the really great defense that they have been playing. I think that with Rob Dillingham, with Anthony Edwards, with Jaden McDaniels, with Naz Reid, with Julius Randle, they have a lot of guys who can get out and run. Dante DiVincenzo can do it. Terrence Shannon Jr. obviously is like the perfect player to get that running game jump started. And so I think that Chris Finch has been preaching that for the last couple of years of, hey, let's get out, let's pick up the pace. But this year, I think it's going to be a very big point of emphasis in training camp, because there are so many easy buckets that this team is leaving on the table by slowing it down to the degree that it usually does. And that's on Anthony Edwards. He's got to get the ball and go. Julius Randle has to get the ball and go. They have to be more aggressive and pushing that way. And you know how hard Anthony Edwards works in the half court to get his buckets and to get his points. And he does a great job at it. But if he can get out and score 6 points in transition, a night with easy layups and dunks, man, now all of a sudden he's going from 24, 25 a game to 30 a game. And that's a way for him to unlock more. Jaden McDaniels is their best finisher in transition at the rim. And so getting him more of those opportunities would allow him to elevate from 15, 16 points a game to 18 to 20 points a game. And those are the easiest things for this franchise to look at in terms of what are we not doing that we can be more productive at. And so I do expect them to have a heavy emphasis on that in the preseason to go. And along with that, in terms of the turnovers, you may turn the ball over a little bit more trying to look for those opportunities. But I think that is worthwhile in terms of what you can get out of it. So I would expect there to be a heavy emphasis early on in camp with getting out in transition and finishing in transition for this team.
From Jake Man 29 on Twitter, do you see Dante getting used as more of a 2-guard this year with Rob Dillingham? Seemed like running the point kind of threw off his game a bit.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, because I expect, and I'm not reporting this is just my hunch, that Dante DiVincenzo is going to be the 5th starter this year when they open the season, and Mike Conley will come off the bench. Just a guess. Conley could still be the starter. Maybe Chris Fincher really still leans in on that. But there was that 5-6 games before DiVincenzo's injury in January where he did move into the starting lineup, and they were having success with that. I think it's a way to get Dante even a little more confidence, a little more rhythm, try and get a little more out of him. And when you do that, technically he's the point guard, but I still think the ball is going to be in Anthony Edwards' hands a lot as well. So he might play off the ball, similar to there's going to be plenty of occasions in a game where Dante does share the court with Rob Dillingham. And I think that there's going to be fewer situations this year where there is a designated point guard on the floor. Certainly when Connelly is on the floor, he is the point guard. But you're seeing more and more teams go to this where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's a 1, but he's a 2. Like, I think Ant is going to be the same way. I think Dante is going to be the same way. And I think there's just going to be more of an emphasis on having 5 of the best players on the floor and less on individual positions. Hey, you have the ball, you initiate the offense. I think they want to be able to do it both ways, because one of the other things to the Rob Dillingham point is I think his best minutes in Summer League were when he was off the ball and when Tristan Newton was playing point guard. And so if you're looking for ways to let Rob Dillingham kind of find his legs and get some confidence going and get a rhythm going, it's putting him off the ball, maybe having Dante, maybe having Ant, maybe having other players kind of handle those duties a little bit more. And so I think it's going to be a lot more nebulous in terms of who is actually the 1 and who is actually the 2 this year. And certainly that will be the case for Dante DiVincenzo as well.
TJ and Jeff Infield both basically asking about Berenger. Usage, where is he going to spend the season? And could he actually see, meaningful minutes in the NBA this year?
So, he is he's on the main roster. So I'm sure he will spend some time in Iowa next year when he just needs minutes and just needs to get to play. He's 18 years old, so he's very, very young. And he will need that time. But he is different from Rocco Zikarsky in terms of Zikarsky's going to be an Iowa player. And that is going to be the emphasis for him. He's going to be there. He's going to be playing, going to be developing his talent. Berenger is going to be a Timberwolves player who occasionally plays in Iowa. And I do think that there will be opportunities for Berenger to play with the Wolves next season, but he will probably run into a lot of the same logjam that Luka Garza ran into when he was here, in terms of you have Naz Reid, you have Julius Randle, you have Rudy Gobert. There are not many more minutes in the front court to be had for any player, let alone an 18-year-old just trying to figure things out. But his defensive prowess, the way that he moves, I do think it is already turning heads with the Timberwolves. And so I don't think it's going to be a situation where he is nailed to the end of the bench all of the time. I think that Chris Finch will look for opportunities for him. And then if he shows that he's capable of more, they'll give him more, but it is going to be slow. I don't think that you're going to see him a part of the regular rotation early, unless he just comes out and dominates in training camp, which this is all going to be a process for him, for settling into a new country, settling into new teammates, to new rules, all of the things that are going to take some time. But they are sky high on his ability, and I do think I can see eventually later on in the season him playing and finding a little bit of a role, but not right away. I wouldn't be expecting him to be any kind of regular part of the rotation early on in the season, while Chris Finch does lean on his veterans as he usually does.
A lot of Twitter questions that we would like to get to today. We're not going to get to today, so we'll do this again. Next time we have a slow week on news, we'll do more Twitter questions. These are really good questions. They get us right into a lot of interesting topics. So thank you for that. We do appreciate it. And we also appreciate Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line sponsoring the Twitter portion of this show. So, hey, for all of our sponsors and to all of our listeners, thank you. We appreciate it. Also, check out John on the Viking Update Show. 3 Viking shows, Russo, Randy Shaver, Kevin Gorg, new fantasy football show. We keep doing a lot of cool things here at TalkNorth.com. We appreciate you listening, and we will talk to you next week.